Hi again, Mark. We are live on our Friday reset at the
Good.
Still Wellness
Yeah.
Podcast. Go ahead, Mark.
Happy holidays to everyone who's watching. Christian, happy holidays to you. This is the last. Is this the last one? Is this the last podcast we're doing for the entire year, or we're
It
doing
is.
another?
We have something special coming next week. Something like
Ooh,
a recap of all the fun conversations we had with many people.
a nice little recap. So stay tuned for next week.
And looking forward to talk about the subject today, which is how to unplug without falling behind. And holidays are
Right.
coming. People are going to be taking vacation, taking time with their family, and throughout the year, what would you suggest is a way to unplug and still be productive and purposeful and active contributor to work, family, sports, everything that our life demands on us? How can we do that still and maybe more by unplugging?
Right. Give me 1 second, Christian. I think something is. There we go. Sorry, I had some notification, but I think there's a innate human desire for growth, right? That's one of our 6 primary needs, along with certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, significance, and then we have our 2 spiritual needs. And by the way, I'm referencing Tony Robbins. I just came back from one of his conferences, and this is where he was talking a lot about what our 6 essential human needs are. The 2 spiritual ones are for contribution, giving back to the community or giving back to people that you love most, right? You don't have to be a doctor or go in a nursing profession to feel like you are doing something for humanity. You can do something with the money. And the second spiritual need is growth. Growth is the one that we're really talking about here when we feel like we're getting left behind, right? If we stop being engaged, we're going to stop growing, which is not necessarily true. We can take our foot off the brake pedal, right? Or we can take our foot off the gas pedal essentially, and take some time to relax and to be present for that which is happening to us right now, right? Especially for the holiday season, you want to be around your loved ones and enjoying those sort of moments. Those are the ones that you don't get back, essentially, right?
Well, when we talk about relax, rest, and digest, that's something that our body needs, right? So physiologically, neurophysiologically, we need to have some rest because we can't be always on high alert stress, right? Our body needs to be able to be productive, be in the flow, go 110%, but not forever. It has to be able to relax and to rejuvenate, right? And that's actually the one of the sign of being able to be healthy physically and mentally is to have that cycle of being able to go high energy, high impact. There's something that's coming, you need to do, you do it now.
All right now. So
Emotional burden
there's a
or
lot
physical.
of demands being placed on us from the environment. And I think additionally, we think of the demands of living in society and right, paying your taxes, paying the rent, and all these other responsibilities that might come upon you. And that is very much real, but perhaps there is a cost as well to that. And perhaps it does take a toll on people that we might not realize. And there is an importance in taking time away. That's why these retreats, these digital reset retreats, and we offer digital resets at AWE as well. But retreats have become very popular in the last couple of years because people are looking for some sort of escape from the chaos of technology.
Well, yeah, people are using escape or avoidance, and we've talked a lot about the difference between app blocking and positive reinforcement, right? So you talked about a reset. I did a reset yesterday. We're doing some cool stuff. The reset yesterday was about the rat race, so how people are always looking for something to accomplish and whatnot.
Yeah.
And our resets are not meditation. They include some mindfulness. They include some breath work. They include a lot of science actually. So we are writing some publications on what we're doing. We are making sure that we have the latest science, not just some woo woo or old ways to conceive about how we can be healthier and better in the mind. And it's been very effective. Still got lots of good comments yesterday from our audience that attended. And yeah, we're offering this to people to have the chance, 25 minutes to disconnect to better reconnect, right? And when you talk about the need to have purpose and to do something meaningful and to the community, right? It's hard to do that when you mentioned notifications, right? There's something coming, there's this and that. I don't have time for myself. Um, we want to give people 25 minutes to give that time to themselves, right? So, can you tell me a little bit more about how technology, use notification, phone, computer, are allowing people to have less of that ability to unplug, and not just to plug and unplug and say I'm throwing my cell phone in the river, but
Yeah.
more like, how can we use that responsibly?
Well, I think it's no secret anymore that algorithms are engineered meticulously to sabotage human behavior. These companies want to know more about you than you essentially know about yourself so that they can plan your next move or know what your next move is going to be. And it's very good for advertising. It has a lot of good use cases, but it takes away a sense of agency in the process. And I think people who spend too much time online, they feel more and more a slave to impulses and to our lower brain primal desires rather than being able to pursue long-term activities. And like you said as well before, the solution is not necessarily throwing your phone in the river and becoming a hermit, but you have to learn how to balance, right, these needs. And coming back to the 6 needs model, right, one of the things that I've learned recently is that perhaps your social media addiction, your internet addiction, is a symptom of not getting your needs met, essentially. Perhaps you're not experiencing enough excitement in your life, and that's why you have a need for uncertainty, which is presented to you by the YouTube algorithm or the Instagram algorithm, right? Perhaps you don't have the need of love and connection being fulfilled, and that's why you go on pornographic websites or you have a parasocial relationship with some content creator online. Everything that we do, right, in terms of behaviors is explained by trying to get one of our 6 essential needs met. And if one of those doesn't get met, we will try to compensate in some sort of way. I heard something very, very interesting, which is that when women cheat, most of the time that women cheat is because their partner is not satisfying one of their needs. So if a woman, for example, feels like she's not being heard or seen or understood by her partner, or she doesn't feel that sense of love and connection anymore, but she feels a sense of financial stability from marrying this man, she will go see somebody who will fulfill her need for love and connection, essentially. So while she's still staying with her old husband, because she wants to get as many needs met as possible, right? And in today's day and age, we try to get all of our needs met, but sometimes they can coincide with or conflict. Sometimes they conflict with each other, right? If you have everybody has different prioritization needs. And sometimes if you want certainty in your life, you want predictability, you want a predictable salary, but you also have a high need for uncertainty and adventure, those things can conflict with each other. You see this a lot in entrepreneurship, for example. People want to go into entrepreneurship for the need for adventure and uncertainty and also freedom, right? But at the end, there's expected that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be some financial payoff from that. And if you don't get that, that can conflict with the need for certainty. And that's why a lot of people will step out of the entrepreneurial race.
And you mentioned adultery, cheating, or going outside of your marriage. There's also the need of excitement, right? So it might be that you're comfortable, you actually might have love and connection with your spouse, but
Yeah.
you don't have that spark, that play, that excitement, right? And
well, what is excitement? Like excitement, I think, is something novel. Have you ever traveled to a new country and you're like, wow, what is this, right? Um, I guarantee if you go to that country again, you'll still be like excited, but perhaps you won't reach the same level of excitement as you had the first time that you saw a place. Then the third time, fourth time, fifth time, right? It's like eating your favorite food. Like the first time it tastes amazing. Second time it's also amazing. It's always going to be great, but it's never going to quite hit it with that same level of excitement like the first time. I feel like excitement definitely falls into that category of uncertainty, novelty, and adventure.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading lately "Mating in Captivity" by a psychologist, couple psychologists, Esther Perel, and
Yeah,
she's talking about that safety and danger and adventure, right? So,
yeah,
we're living in a little bit of a septicized world where, we feel like every relationship long term should be always safe and comfortable, but that's
hmm,
not what the biology wants, right? The human needs is a little bit looking for that excitement, that even danger, that uncertainty,
yeah.
right?
Would love to get Esther on this podcast at some point in time. She's probably the expert on affairs, right? And why people cheat. And I think there's just so much for anybody who's watching this who hasn't checked her out. Like, check out Esther Perel. She's like the top relationship expert in the world on cheating and affairs.
Yeah, she's invited. We'll see if we can catch her next year, Esther.
Yeah,
Love you. So, in terms of coming back to this unplugging, right? How can we uh, conceptualize those needs, right? So, and I think that's what we're trying to do in our research, is to say like, okay, well, when you're resetting, you need not only to be resetting. We are doing vagus nerve and nervous system reset, but we also
yeah,
need to be resetting your psychology and talk about those needs, right? Which include safety, which we talked about, but also excitement and awe.
yeah,
And some of our preliminary research show that more than 50% of our reset participants are experiencing awe, right?
yeah,
So awe is a phenomenon, that it's an emotion, it's a sensation, and it's like transcendence, like feeling that things are bigger than you, right? And that's a positive, exciting emotion that people are not feeling enough in day to day, right? But if we want to come back to the neuroscience and neurobiology, I just wanted to kind of explain that there's a lot of theories about the vagal nerve. The polyvagal theory is the main one. And there's a lot of books talking about healing yourself with the vagal nerve. This is one of them, Healing Through
mm,
the Nerve, with some forward by a doctor. I have read and seen some here, vagal nerve here also, heal your nervous system. But let's look at the real science and how that's. I was reading a paper, 2025, which we can share with the audience, which is, have we wandered too far? Because we call the vagus nerve the wandering nerve. That's what that means in Latin. And then this study is looking at, the polyvagal theory, which we talked about, and the other theory is neurovisceral integration model. So those are telling us that the vagal nerve could be used and is it proposed to use to do self-regulation, mainly regulating your emotions, right? Anxiety, um, depression, trauma, which we saw that the other books proposed. Now, the conclusion of this paper is quite interesting, which is says that the actual, biological research looking at the cardiac and vagal activity are not that concluent, and we need to have more regularity in terms of studies, and also we need to look at the ecological context. So that means how are you using this not only in the lab but actually at home, where people are stressed at work. And that's what we're trying to do, with our research, is to say, okay, yes, we know that the vagal nerve is useful in helping regulate some of the emotions and some of the physical aspects, of cardiac variability, and being able to allow for more calm and peace. And yeah, by the way, 100% of our participants so far have claimed that they have subjective calm, and 85% use the word peace, right? So we know that what we're doing is creating a subjective part of well-being and or happiness, subjective well-being. And there is some biology and neural correlates, but what this paper says is that it's not just the biology, it's also the psychology, it's also the context, it's also when and how and why you're doing this and how you feel about it. So yeah, what do you think about this, Mark? Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. Besides the reset, do you have any other pieces of practical advice that people could perhaps heal their vagal nerve?
Well, in terms of Vegas research, there are 6 to 7 different types of breathing techniques that can work. And again, it depends on the individual and the context.
Mhm.
But we try a few of them, breath work included in some of our resets. There are some that you can find out and try to figure out on your own. If you need assistance or coaching, we're also available for that and might have some technology to help in the near future. And in terms of other tools, there's something that I've been using, which has some very degree of evidence-based reporting. It is, something like a acupressure map or shoes. So you
Hmm.
have a map that you can be on for 20 minutes, and that will kind of prick you and regulate somewhat your vagus nerve. And you can have shoes or sandals that do that as well. So that's just something that you can buy and purchase and use. There are some more invasive or complicated vagal nerve stimulators out there, but I think that there's a lot to be done with breath work and psychology to regulate the nervous system in general,
It's
and the,
fascinating.
and the endocrine system, which is the hormones, the cortisol, the stress hormones, the oxytocin, vasopressin, the endorphin hormones, the love hormones as well. And so there's a lot that we can do understanding both the psychology and the neurobiology.
That's amazing. That's really, really interesting. I think what I learned for myself, and again, this doesn't apply to everyone, but um, I have difficulty sometimes when I'm working in front of the computer for long periods of time. And I noticed that like a lot of it is just my physiology, right? If I'm slouched down in a chair all day and I'm kind of looking down and I'm at the computer and I tend to like just slide down and start reclining in my chair, and that really affects my focus tremendously. And I feel like there's no outlet. I mean, I have this energy that I want to let out, but there's no outlet, right? Essentially, I'm looking at a wall all day in
Hmm.
front of my face. And by allowing myself to get into a peak state, I get up and I start shouting and start slamming my chest and jumping up and down. That I would be interested to see what the research would have to say for the correlation between an activity where you are jumping up and down, like and 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 how this corresponds to the vagus nerve.
Well, I know that my friend Matt is an expert in kind of using uh, his knowledge of our proprioception and inner ear, so balancing system, and some of kind of the power pose that if you put your chest up and do some certain pose that gives you some energy, confidence, and motivation,
Hmm.
and affects your also your hormones. So I know that not specifically just the vagus nerve, but there are some studies that shows that also your balance. So if you practice yoga or other, if you're a gymnast and you're practicing your balance, that also has some positive effects on your mood and on your posture. So yeah, the body affects the mind and vice versa.
What's the vestibular system that you're referring to, right? So the feeling of orientation, and it's like why a lot of people will get very sick in a car when they're reading a book or when they're on their phone is because the brain doesn't have a really good idea of balance, right? It's people get seasick for the same reasons, is because the vestibular system is being thrown off.
I was writing. I was driving a friend this weekend, which has very bad car sickness, and yeah, it
Hmm.
was funny to see. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't look at you. I have to look at the horizon because, yeah, it's some conditions that there is no actual treatment for her condition yet.
Mm.
Um, we know that those systems are all interactive, and that's why we try to see the human body, the mind, technology, and humans as very holistic and systemic, right? Relationships, everything affects what we can perceive and feel.
100%. And I think that people are often familiar with the theory around this. Perhaps they are like, yeah, I understand. But how would you explain, why is it so difficult for people to put knowledge into action in general?
um, it's two different parts of the brain, right? So
Hmm.
you have the cognitive part, which is I understand, I get it, and then there's the I'm going to do it, and what's going to keep you motivated to do it, right? And that's again one thing that we try to incorporate in the reset. One of the recent studies showed that 77% of participants had like an embodiment experience. So they not
Hmm.
only understood the material that we're talking about, but they felt it in their body. Some felt warm feelings, some cried, some had goosebumps, like awe experiences. Some felt relaxed, right? So people felt it in their body after the research. So that's how changes will be more lasting than just listening to a podcast or reading something and intellectualizing it but not feeling it.
So this is something that I've thought about this week. And for all listeners, we will get back to the subject of taking a break from digital distraction. But
So we're
um,
taking a break from taking a break.
just taking a break from taking a break, exactly. Uh, but in a certain way, right? One of the needs that I alluded to before, uncertainty, excitement, entertainment, that gets met somewhat maladaptively through instant gratification and YouTube, Instagram, porn, all this stuff. There is a real fulfilling dopamine, right, to be gained from long-term goal achievement. And I think that perhaps a lot of people, especially, this is especially relevant for New Year's resolutions. You see gyms full of people for a month in January, and then it's totally empty. And I think partly that's because there's a lot of excitement around imagining your future ideal. That's novelty, right? But conditioning yourself repeatedly over time that this is what you want, right? And you have to have behavior that aligns with this
Mhm.
goal achievement. That's the more difficult part, is reminding yourself repeatedly, because I think you can imagine I'm losing 20 kilos, right? Okay. That's really attractive. I want to have six-pack abs at the beach. Okay. Even better, right? I want to be have six-pack abs at the beach and have like women going crazy over me. Okay. That's really appealing. That's going to motivate me to sign up for the gym, right? I see a gym offer, get your six-pack abs at the beach. Fantastic. Sign me up. Okay. I go first week, I'm like, fuck yeah, like let's do it. Second week, I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. Third week, that's where things get tough. I have clients who are struggling with consistency, and I think the reason that a lot of people struggle with consistency is that um, the beginning, the goal seems really attractive, but the more you try to get after the goal, the less appealing it becomes all of a sudden, because it's just work. You've sort of removed the activity from the dopamine you get of imagining this, getting this goal long term. And instead, your brain is craving dopamine right now. You're like, I need it, I need it, I need it. So you get that dopamine perhaps from maladaptive sources that are not congruent with that long term goal attainment, right?
Well, I'll give you an example, and we could do this with the audience, even those who are live, right? So we're not gonna talk, and you do nothing for like 10 seconds, just 10, okay? Doesn't that feel good, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to talk, you don't have to do silence, stillness, right? And those are the habits that people forget. It's like, I need to have this goal. I need to do this all the time. I need to be actively doing this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you sometimes you just need a pause, right? And then what makes the dopamine better is that if you, instead of having goals, you start to ascribe meaning and purpose, right?
Mhm.
So it's not only about the goal that you achieve or don't achieve or win or lose. It's like what I'm doing
Yeah.
today, I'm doing it with purpose. So that in itself is good enough, right?
So let me play because I've like taking on this role recently in the last couple episodes we did, but let me play a devil's advocate for a second for what you said, which would be if I take my foot off the gas pedal, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I can be silent for 10 seconds or 10 days, 10 months.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm going to get really behind in life if I do that.
Mhm.
Therefore, I shouldn't take my foot off the gas pedal. This is a sentiment I see from a lot of my friends who live in the US.
Yeah.
They're afraid if they don't outperform at their job that they're easily replaceable and they'll be taken by somebody else, right?
Well, I would say that in the corporate world in general, most people are easily replaceable anyway, so accept
Yeah.
it, move on. But you can.
Welcome to LinkedIn. Let's hashtag quote of the day for LinkedIn. You're replaceable. Move on.
But it's not that your position is irreplaceable. You as a human being is irreplaceable, but in the corporate world, you're not made felt like that. Often. Like I just interviewed people for a new role, and people was like, "Wow, Chris, like you make me feel like a human being." And I've had other interviews, and I've just felt like a number, right? So that's
Yeah.
the state of the world. And if they're in those types of jobs, then maybe they should look for something more purposeful. But more importantly, and that's really important, right? Maybe if they feel like they're getting behind, is that they're not in a job that allows them to give their purpose a priority and their humanity a priority, right? So maybe that's one aspect. But most importantly is like, why is there 2 weeks vacations in the US and in Canada? Actually, that's not good enough. In Europe, there's four. In Australia, there's 6 weeks, right?
4
So
weeks.
like and is it more or less productive? It depends on the company. It depends on many things. But like just imagine that we can have physical vacations at home, like staycation or going to travel, like Mark and I love to do. But there's also like vacations in the day, in the week. And all those are important because they allow you to come back with a smile, right? So if you're grinding at the end, at the end of the day, you're gonna be like, and you're gonna be less productive, and right? And you want to keep that energy level high and that purpose, and you're gonna make more mistake if you're not rested, right? You're gonna start making mistakes. You're gonna start making bad decisions. You're gonna, whatever. But eventually, that takes a toll on you. And the idea is that we want to have enough, and different people need different. There is some like Pomodoro technique, I cannot pronounce well today, that says it's like 25 minutes and then 5-minute breaks. And that doesn't really work in the biology. People have different brain, different level of energy. In the morning, your cortisol is higher, so you can do more things. People, have different sunlight, energy, food. So many things will affect your level of focus and flow, for instance. And in our research, many people, even though they felt calm, also felt in the flow. Some people felt they didn't, effortlessly, loss of time, things like that, right? So the flow that you can have at rest can also come back and be super productive at work. There's some study that show that being in the flow state can be up to 700% more efficient than if you're not in the flow state, right? And
Mhm.
if you're tired and not relaxed, then you're not going to be in the flow state.
It's all physiology. Or a lot of it is, at least. It's a lot of it's directly related to physiology and how you take care of yourself. And again, I think people might know this, but the expectation in society is to be constantly moving and creating. And if you're not moving, you're dying. That is the motto that rules a lot of capitalism, right? If you're not moving, you're dying, and I have to constantly be right. If I stop and I take too much time for myself, then I'm going to fall behind, right? And a lot of people are afraid of the uncertainty of what that would mean.
Well, I will say that, and for the top leadership and leaders, it's like rest is, could be potentially bad if it's just avoidance, right? And when you're avoiding, you're actually not really resting because you're avoiding anxiously, right? you're procrastinating and you know you should be doing something, but you're not doing it, right? So rest with intention is what's good, right? So you want to rest with intention, and then you're not avoiding, then you're not procrastinating, then you're doing what's good for.
So besides the digital reset, how do you rest with intention?
There's many ways, like I've been sometimes doing micro meditation or like micro mindfulness or like awe walks, right? So you walk outside and then you see the beauty and the birds and right. So small things like that, might sound stupid, but it actually affects your brain so positively, and you're like, okay, now I can. Oh, and then my business idea also came, right after, and then I can implement it, and I have the energy, and right. So.
Mhm. Those walks are so important, right? And just perhaps going to the gym or finding some time just to lay down, close your eyes. Some of the most important things that you can do.
And then the social aspect, right? So spend time with friends, go laugh with your buddies, go play some sports, all those social connections, call your family member that you've been ignoring, especially in the holidays, you have an excuse, oh, hi. Those are all super good for our brain and body. Our body needs social connection, right?
Do you think that like type of social connection of speaking to somebody in an online form like we are right now,
Hmm.
does that suffice for that need for connection?
It does about 90%, right? So
Mm.
text and phone are not great, but we know that people using messaging app instead of social media have much less adverse effects than scrolling and liking and feed. So if you're connecting someone directly with a message, it could be SMS or other platforms,
Hmm.
that is kind of a communication, depending how deep or interesting that is. Phone is better. So, like I said, call someone. And then
Yeah.
video is the next best thing because we can have like the nonverbal, the eyes, right? Beyond just the laughter or the shared uh, intonation, because in the text we don't have the nonverbal intonation. But
Hmm.
the best is always face to face. And when you can do that, you increase because you have the proximity and you can have the touch. Um, so yeah, that's the best, but this is the second best. So
I heard this. I think a lot of people are reluctant to call somebody on the phone. But it's crazy how it used to be so normal 20 years ago. And I think I heard Sam Harris give this example of how, like, back in the day, it was totally normal to call people and see how they're doing. But nowadays, calling somebody, unsolicitedly, like a person that
yeah,
out of the blue, is like almost akin to just like showing up and knocking on their door
yeah,
unannounced,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? And people feel like why are you calling me, right?
yeah.
So I think there's a big hesitation to even do that in the first place.
Well, that's true. I mean, I still have quite a few friends that I can call out of the blue, and they can call me. But yeah, I
Yeah,
know that in many things, like if you're not texting or asking if you can call, or and it because we've become so reliant on technology that
right.
it becomes like, well, I'm texting so much, and then like what, like it's awkward now to talk. All right, you can leave even voice notes, but having a real live conversation, why, but it's
Yeah.
better than what people are doing now, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think guys, holidays right now is the perfect time.
Well, and by the way, Mark, thanks for calling me out of the blue sometimes. So you're always welcome to call. Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So
you were saying about the holidays.
yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, to connect. And sometimes, a lot of people don't have the best relationships with their family, and that's understandable. But if you're back in your hometown, make a effort to reach out to a few old friends that you haven't been in touch with in a long time and see how they're doing, right? Make the world for them.
So there is this time now for the Q&A. We will wait a minute or two if anyone on our channels, LinkedIn, um, YouTube,
Mhm.
X, have some questions for us. It could be questions for Mark or myself specifically about this topic, or it could be just saying, "Hey, thanks. I will reach out to my mom, my dad. I will connect with my friend. I will call someone." It can be I will unplug like this today or in the holidays. So questions or comments are more than welcome at this time.
I just realized my camera's shaking a little bit and it's kind of annoying me. So I'm just going to try to unplug a cable.
Yeah, go ahead. So in the meantime, and you can also drop in questions at any time. Yes, we have our free digital reset, which I love to perform, and Mark does as well. On our website, digitalwellness.com, you just click the free reset, and you're on our way to resetting and unplugging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Another opportunity. If there are any parents watching here, you know, Christmas time, obviously great time to rest and connect with your kids. But if your kids, if you see their kids around the house on their iPads or, in the front of the computer, and you're like, kids these days, they're not spending enough time with us. It's a great opportunity, just check out the All Smarter phone. It's on our website listed right now. It's been live for a little over a month now. And this phone is specifically designed to make sure that you have better interactions with your children, more engagement with their children. They're spending less time on the iPad and more time face to face with the parents, right? It's been scientifically tested and proven to increase interaction with parents. And that's what it was made for. Right. So if you're looking for a way to improve your kids' behavior without yelling at them or banning the devices, check out the All Smarter phone. It's on our website.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, very useful for parents, teenagers, and even youngings that are getting their first access to this fun but dangerous world of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
So we're trying to help them with positive reinforcement. Marketing team has a question from the audience here. I feel guilty resting when others are still moving. Mark, what would you say to that? Feeling guilty? Resting?
Guilty when others are moving. You should feel guilty. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Feeling guilty when others are moving is a normal response. And I think it alludes to what we were speaking about before, which is feeling like you're falling behind if you take your foot off the gas pedal, essentially. And I want you to remember that there is no race against other people, right? There is no, my girlfriend usually says the worst 3 C's are criticize, compare, and complain, right? If you're consistently comparing yourself to others, you're always going to feel like you're falling behind, right? But the true measure, the comparison, and I think the great psychologist from your country, Christian, Jordan Peterson, he says, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to somebody else today. And I think you have to ask yourself, okay, if I'm less burned out today than I was yesterday because of the rest that I took, isn't that an incremental improvement over time?
Thanks for sharing. And I agree with those 3 C's. And there's a fourth one, which is very important, contempt, right? So contempt is kind of a deep, it's complaint getting to like when you don't even admire or despise that person. Like contempt is a very bad state of mind. And I'm actually still writing my series on happiness. So there's the 7 C's of happiness, and then there's 7 bad C's. So Mark has 3. There's a 4th. We'll figure out about the 3 others later. We'll have books available on the website next year, by the way. So when we're talking about guilt, right? So my first idea is like non-judgment, right? So you're doing something, don't feel guilty, don't blame yourself, don't blame others, right? And resting is actually necessary, right? So if you feel guilty about resting, then you don't understand that that's actually what you need to do. It doesn't mean you need to spend 3 months, in South Florida and do nothing, and not feel guilty about it, or not feel an impetus to do something else if you do have one, or else stay 3 months in South Florida. It's not going to be me. Mark?
I think that, again, guilt is normal, but you have to be able to recognize the point at which to start the momentum, to start moving again, right? If you are not moving, because like I said, it's easy to go on vacation. That's really important for a lot of people. But if it's consistent vacation and you feel something gnawing inside you, like that need for growth isn't there, that's a really important call to action that you cannot ignore. Call to adventure.
Yeah, because everyone, like, people are talking about the and I wrote my first novel when I was 17 about like a utopia, right, where there's no money, and so now we're talking about universal basic income, and people are saying, well, what would people do if they get paid to do nothing? And it's like, well, there's many people that volunteer. There's many people that are retired, and
Right.
are both retired and still working and learning. And right. So, like, it's not because you have money and nothing to do that you don't want to do something, right? So, and that's when we talk about, one, the crisis of meaninglessness, a crisis of loneliness, and two, the importance of purpose, right? So, it doesn't mean that if you're on the beach for 3 months and there's a purpose, you're reading a book, you're writing a book, you're meeting something, you need it, whatever it is, then that's fine. But when you start feeling that there's no more purpose doing that, then your body and mind will tell you, well, there's probably something else I should do, right?
You
And
feel it
then
in your
you
soul.
need to build those habits to get there.
100%. Yeah, absolutely agree. You'll feel it in your soul if there's something missing.
So how can we create this resting state even if we cannot fully unplug, right? So we're going to be the holidays, we're not suggesting people should be with
Yeah.
their family and on their phone, and right, but what's the good balance, and how can you make that practical for the audience?
Um, I'm just going to fire off 5 things that you can do over the holidays. One, turn off your phone and just find a book that you want to read and focus on reading that book. See how long you can turn off your phone. Make a challenge for yourself. 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, right? See if you can go 1 week without your phone. Uh, Two, start doing daily meditation, 10 minutes a day in the morning, 15 minutes. You'll see a huge difference. Not a huge difference after 1 week, but you'll see a noticeable difference after 1 week. 3, if you have this in your city, I highly recommend it. Sensory deprivation tanks. This is like a meditation on steroids, but essentially, you go into this tank full of water that's loaded with rock salt, and you're floating in the water. There's buoyancy, and you're in there for an hour and a half, but you have no sense of time. So the time passes by much quicker, right? And it's completely dark, and you're not aware whether you are awake or whether you are unconscious, right? And that can bring a lot of really interesting insights as well. The 4th strategy that I would recommend before it becomes New Year, New Me, start going to the gym, right? Just go to the gym, dedicate some time for yourself. And then 5, right? If you haven't already signed up for digital resets that are available on our website, and it's something that can give you a really good introduction to meditation.
I thought the fifth was going to be like take drugs, like
Go on an ayahuasca retreat and discover your childhood traumas again. I'm kidding.
But yeah, I mean, very very practical things, and yeah, I look forward to try to find that. What do you call it? Sensory deprivation. I've heard people try it, and
yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, try it out. They're really, really good.
so when we're talking about empowerment, like, how can we give people permission to take a rest, take a reset, take take the time that they need?
I think for a lot of people, it's about evaluating what blueprint are they looking at their life, through which blueprint are they evaluating their own success in life, right? And the expectation is that I need to be working 10 hours a day in order to feel like I'm successful. If you change the blueprint, which you really do have the power to, you have power to change beliefs about yourself, then you can feel successful without having to feel like you need to work 10 hours a day and be totally wired in and notified of everything that happens in the world all the time.
And by the way, as well, if you need help in building those habits, we have our new non-human but friendly coach, Lumi, that's
Lumi.
available on our website, on the web or on WhatsApp. I've been using it myself. Quite fun. And that is also useful for building new habits in the New Year's, right? I think we first have to be aware that we have habits that we want to change, and then use awareness, knowledge, and action, right? So you need to
Yeah.
recreate those behaviors. You need to be accountable, and you can be accountable to me or Mark or to Lumi, or to your buddy or to
Yeah.
your family as well. But make sure that you feel accountable. That's the culture that we have at Off, for instance, in our business aspect. Everyone is accountable and has ownership on what they do, and then you feel empowered, then you can empower others, right?
100%. Sometimes you just need a support network around you.
And so, unplugging isn't stepping out of life, right? Isn't it stepping into life, actually?
Well, like, do you consider your life to be online, right? Or do you consider like life to be what's happening every single moment that sometimes we take for granted, right? So I think that when we make something our focus or obsession, it consumes us, right? And then we forget what is truly meaningful. Every
Right.
moment there's an opportunity to appreciate that. We just don't see it.
And I love your idea of being like proactive. It's like, from what I understand, it's like January starts in December. January starts today, right? Like, why
100%.
wait? Why wait
Yeah,
till, it's like, no, now, today, not even today, now, right?
right
So,
now.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the type of thing that allows, like, you know, it allows you to unplug, because every time that you're somewhere, you're there with presence and with purpose, right? So
hmm,
when you rest, you don't feel guilty, because all the rest of the day you were there. You were not like halfway there and your mind was thinking about this and this and that, and right. So the more present you are now, and the more active, the easier it is to understand that you need rest, and rest is part of the whole cycle, right? Like, you need sleep, right? Would anyone
you need
tell
to
you that
recharge.
they will spend 5 days without sleep, except me, maybe? But yeah.
Not a recommendation for the audience watching. Always
Not
gets to sleep.
recommended. Not recommended. But seriously, people understand that they need rest. They need sleep. A lot of people say, "I love my sleep," right? But you also need non-sleep rest, and if you plan it with attention, you unplug from your device, you unplug from your work, you unplug from some of the obligation for a reasonable amount of time with intention, then that's going to help everyone.
100%. I agree that learning to reset, right? Guys, try this out for yourself. Don't just listen to us. Really, try to unplug this holiday season and see what it does for you. It's going to make a noticeable difference in your life.
Sorry. So we can ask, like we talked about, the body, the biology, the mind.
Hmm.
Maybe as we're starting to close, and
Hmm.
like, to be honest, actually, like, this is a reset for me. Like, just talking to you is very enjoyable. Social interaction, having
Yeah,
people come in with question. Sometimes you can find rest and reset within work or within productive task, and just have that mindset of, this is restorative to my body, my mind, and all this. So, like, we can leave with some closing questions, right?
hmm.
What is one thing your body is asking for this month of December, January, or December?
I might not be the best person to ask because my body's asking for the opposite of a reset. My body's asking for like energy and jumping and going crazy, right? So
But that's good. And again, like, we cannot say like every person needs to rest to be on the beach with a pina colada and
right,
snoozing. Some people's reset is, hey, my vacation is, I'm going to go on a mountain and go
yeah,
to the top and like look at the view, and that's amazing, right? That's
yeah,
the type of energy, right? So
100%,
the different people have different idea of reset, and that's okay too. So that's a good example, Mark.
100%. No, I agree. What about you?
Um, yeah, my body is also telling me that I have a lot more energy to go. So
Yeah,
yeah, but that's me. And if you need rest, you do. I do after a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days. I do need to rest sometimes.
yeah.
And then my body tells me, and then I listen to it, and I feel no guilt about
This-
taking 4 hours of Often.
Sometimes I get messages from you at like 3 in the morning, and I'm like, "What is this guy doing? Why are you up at 3 in the morning, man? Just sleep. Get like sleep for me is a non-negotiable. 7, 8 hours at least every night."
Yeah, so no, I don't recommend people to sleep as less as me. I just happen to have high energy, and I know when I need to sleep
Mhm.
or need to rest. So I also listen to my body.
Yeah,
Um, and where do you feel pressure to stay productive, right? And that could be to the audience, right? So, like,
yeah,
be sure, I think, to narrow down like the pressure, because anxiety is kind of undefined fear, right? Anxiety is fear of uncertain future. And the more you know about the fear, the more you can say and use CBT and ACT and everything to say, well, that fear is not that real or present. But when it's uncertain, then that becomes anxiety, right? So, is
yeah.
there a specific um, pressure that you find about productivity in your life, in your work, that you want to share with you?
It's not fear right now, it's excitement. And I think
Mhm.
anxiety that's not, or energy that's not defined can become anxiety if we interpret it as fear. So I feel a lot of excitement about what we're doing at AWE and over the next couple of months, and where we can go. And that for me is the excitement that I'm feeling right now.
Great, thanks for sharing. And to the audience, and if again, if you have any questions in the audience before the next 5 minutes, where we're trying to close off Q&A.
Q&A time.
Thanks for the previous questions. What would rest look like if you didn't feel it was risky, right? Because you're risking to lose something, like FOMO of doing something, right? Or not doing something.
Is that a question for me? What would risk look like if it
Yeah, the
weren't?
audience, or for you, if no one's answering for now, go ahead.
What would risk look like if you didn't have FOMO?
Rest.
Rest.
Look like if it didn't feel risky.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace. That's
Yeah. That's how I describe it.
Well, that's a good closing word. I love peace is one of my 8 P's, and
Yeah.
we want to encourage peace. We're modern
Peace.
day hippies, right? Thank you for listening and interacting. We will have a special podcast montage, probably recap next week, just
Hmm.
for Christmas or around that. That's the Christmas gift for everyone. And we will be definitely back in 2026 with more guests, with more just Mark and myself talking about those amazing topics, and you contributing with your thoughts. If you're watching this after it airs and it's not live, leave comments, reach out to us directly,
Hmm.
comment on our website or social medias, and make sure to follow us and say hi. We're real people. We're here.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching another episode of our AWE podcast. And make sure to tune in next week for a very special podcast episode, end of the year podcast episode. We have some really exciting guests coming up in the new year. We're really glad that you guys can kind of accompany us on this journey.